Good evening. I welcome everyone here today. It's Tuesday, August the 10th, and we have an alcohol informational session today, and we're joined by our attorney, Michael McNeil. We do have some copies of local ordinances up front for any of you that would like to have one, and a sign-in sheet if you'd like to ask any questions. We're going to begin the process by having some brief explanation on what we're here about today. We do have a slide presentation for you, and then we'll accept questions and answers at the end of that, and we'll ask you to approach the microphone and podium up front and ask your questions and identify who you are, and we'll do a question and answer session on both of these items here. So we'll go ahead and begin with a presentation by our attorney, Michael McNeil.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have there it is, okay. If you'll go to the next slide, please. We've got three new laws that are updates to our alcohol code that we just want to go over with everybody, make sure everybody is aware of these changes to local law. So the first one, we're going to talk about some new Sunday sales hours for package to go. That was actually implemented a year ago, but we just want to get the notice out to everybody so that you're aware of this. The second is new requirements relating to security cameras. And the third code change is relating to the use of armed security in bars and nightclubs. Next slide, please. So this first topic is going to be very brief. Sunday sales hours. This only affects package to go sales. That's convenience stores, liquor stores, grocery stores, anything that's selling package to go. For all package to go retail, you're now allowed to sell from 11 a.m. until midnight. Prior to last September, the hours were 12:30 p.m. until 11:30 p.m. State law allowed for that expansion, and the commission from last year passed the expansion. It's now 11 a.m. till midnight for all package to go. No additional permit is necessary. This includes beer, wine, and liquor sales for anyone that's selling package to go. If you're selling consumed on premises, those hours of sale remain the same. If you have a Sunday sales permit, you can only sell beer and wine, and it's from 12:30 p.m. to 2 a.m. If you have a Sunday sales permit, you can sell liquor as well on Sundays, and that can start at 11 a.m. So that's the overview of the change to the Sunday sales hours. As Mayor said, we'll take all the questions at the end. So if we can go to, there we go, security camera requirements. This is a new ordinance. This was passed, I believe, back in March for security cameras. There was an ordinance on the books already for package to go retailers. This added security camera requirements for bars and nightclubs, and it adds minimum requirements for all security camera systems. That includes package to go as well as bars and nightclubs. Next slide, please. So just to clarify who is under this ordinance, bar is defined in state law and means any business that derives 75% or more of its total gross revenue from the sale of alcoholic beverages for consumption on premises. A nightclub, that's a term that's defined in the local law. And so a nightclub has to meet these five requirements that are listed here. First, they charge some sort of admission charge directly or indirectly to patrons. That could be a cover charge, a membership fee, a minimum order requirement. It does not have to be every patron. So places that do, for example, ladies can come in free, that you're still charging an admission charge to some of your patrons. If you do Friday nights are free, but you charge a cover on Saturday nights, that's still charging an admission charge to some of your patrons. So as long as you have a regular practice of charging for admission, you meet this definition. Number two, you're licensed to sell alcoholic beverages for consumption on premises. Number three, you're providing some sort of entertainment using amplified sound. That could be live music, that could be live amplified human speech through like a DJ, a live dramatic or comedic performance, anything that uses speakers or amplified sound. And then the fourth qualification, you don't provide enough seats for everybody viewing the entertainment to sit. So this typically means you have like a dance floor, you have a general admission pit area where people are standing watching a band, something like that. It's not people sitting watching the entertainment. And then the last qualification is there's an exception. This doesn't apply if you earn at least half of your revenue from prepared meals or from renting rooms for overnight stay. So if you're a bona fide restaurant or a hotel or motel, then you're not a nightclub. There's exceptions for that as well. Next slide, please. So the package to go retailers, the bars and the nightclubs are required to have cameras. The ordinance also addresses how many cameras they have to have, and there's different rules for the different categories. For a package to go, you have to have, and it depends on your business model, you have to have enough cameras to capture the face and clothing of anyone entering through any public entrance or making a purchase from the business. For bars and nightclubs, there's slightly more cameras that are required. You have to have enough to capture the face and clothing of anyone entering through any public entrance. You have to have 50-foot coverage from any public entrance outside of your business. So this is like the doorway, the sidewalks. If you have a line that's out on the street to get into your club, anything like that, 50 feet coverage from any public entrance outside. You also have to be able to capture anybody that's making purchase from any fixed point of sale. So anyone that's buying drinks from a bar, buying drinks from a cash register, making any kind of purchase from a fixed point of sale. When I say fixed point of sale, that does not include, for example, if you have like a server, waiter, waitress that brings drinks to a table, you don't necessarily have to capture the images at the table. But if people are going to a point to make a purchase, then that's what that term means. And then any dance floor or similar area, wherever the crowd is going to be standing, you need to be able to observe the crowd on your camera system. Next slide, please. So in addition to requiring a number of cameras, and again, it's based on your business, how many you have to have, there are also minimum specifications that the commission adopted as to the capability of the camera system. So in order to be compliant, your camera system has to meet all of these requirements. They have to have a 1080p high definition resolution or better. They have to have a frame rate of 15 frames per second. That's the number of images that it takes every second, at least 15 frames per second. You have to produce clear images of the people and faces in the actual lighting conditions used inside and outside of the business. And so to clarify, actual lighting conditions means whatever you have going on inside of your club. If you have dim lights, your cameras need to be able to see people clearly in dim lights. If you have strobe lights, black lights, lasers, smoke or fog machines, any kind of effects, lighting effects, anything that would interfere with the cameras, you need to have a camera system in place that's capable of still seeing the crowd, notwithstanding whatever lighting or effects or events that you're having inside of your facility. The cameras have to be able to save the images to tape, film, or digital media in a format that can be stored or enlarged, and you have to keep those records for at least 30 days. So a lot of places that have security camera systems, they have like a hard drive that saves the footage to, and as long as you can save 30 days worth of footage or more at a time, then that's compliant. And you have to keep the cameras clean enough so that they don't get dusty or they don't get debris on them that interferes with their filming. If there's a spider web over the camera, you have to brush it away. Next slide, please. So just to wrap up on the camera ordinance provision, this is inspected through the Sheriff's Department Outreach Division. Anyone that's applying for a new license right now, they have to go contact the Sheriff's Department Outreach Division, and they'll actually have somebody come out and verify the camera system as part of the process of applying for a license now. So if you want someone that's charged with looking at these to come out and look at your system and see if it complies for you, you're welcome to give them a call. The phone number is on the slide, and they'll come out and they'll check your camera system and they'll confirm whether or not it complies with this ordinance. The penalty for non-compliance, it would include up to, it's the general penalty for ordinance violations in Macon-Bibb. It includes up to a fine of $1,000 or jail for up to 6 months. And in addition, if a business is found to be violating this, they don't have adequate camera systems, then action may be taken against the business's alcohol license to include things like putting conditions on the operation of the business, suspending or revoking the license. Next slide, please. And one more. Skip that one. Thank you. So the third topic that I wanted to address with everybody today is the use of armed security. And this was part of the same ordinance that was adopted a few months ago by the commission. There are new rules governing the use of armed security staff at bars, nightclubs, and alcohol special events. So the terms bars and nightclubs, they have the same definitions that we just talked about. And then alcohol special events are if somebody has an alcohol caterer's license and they hold an event where they're selling alcohol off of their normal business premises, and they get a special event permit for that. So armed security is anybody who has job duties that include protecting any person in a business from death or bodily harm, or preventing or breaking up fights between or involving patrons. Where it says job duties that include, that means if any part of the person's job duty involves doing these activities, it can be 5% of their job duty, but if it involves it at all, then it includes, and so that qualifies. Part 2, the person is suffered, permitted, or required to carry a firearm on the job. And so permitted and required, I think, are self-explanatory, but suffered, I want to clarify. Suffered means if you have a rule in your business and you tell your security forces, do not bring a gun on the premises, it's a violation of your rules as an employee, and they do so anyway, and you don't prevent them from having it, you don't tell them to go put it in the car, you don't kick it, remove it from the premises. If it is on your premises, you have a duty to know about it, and you're responsible. There are no new rules regarding security staff if your security staff does not carry a firearm, or if the only armed security staff are post-certified peace officers. So if you're hiring off-duty deputies, off-duty peace officers as your security, this does not apply to them. They're going through post-certification, which is a much more intensive program, and so this does not apply to them. And if your security does not carry a firearm, this does not apply to them. Next slide, please. So just going over what's required, if you do choose to use armed security and they're not post-certified peace officers, then these are the steps that you have to take. First of all, you can hire armed security either through a independent contractor basis, or you can be their direct employer. Either way, these steps have to be followed. Whoever the employer is, whether it's an independent contractor that hires staff to come work at your bar as armed security or your business as armed security, or whether you're hiring them directly, the employer has to be licensed as a private security business by the Georgia Board of Private Detectives and Security Agencies. That's a state agency. They're responsible for licensing and monitoring activities of private security businesses. And anyone that's working as armed security has to be individually licensed by the same board as a security officer. That's also known as a blue card permit, and that's a permit that includes training requirements. And so that person, if they have that certification, they've gone through the training requirements, firearm training requirements, threat assessment training requirements, and things like that in order to receive those licenses. The way that the state Board of Private Detectives and Security Agencies licensing works is that somebody that's licensed as a security officer is registered to a specific employer. So if you have one of these permits as a security officer, you can only work in that capacity for the employer that you're registered with. You can be registered with multiple employers, but the state board knows who you're working for as security. And so the licenses are not transferable, and if you're hiring these people to work for you, you have to register them on your private security business license, even if they're working in other capacities as a security officer. Next slide, please. So once those steps have been met, you've registered your business, or you've hired an independent contractor that's registered with the state board, and all of the employees that are going to be working as armed security are registered with the state board, then you have to let us know. No business can use armed security unless they file a copy of the private security business license and all security officer licenses and the names and dates of birth of the armed security with the Alcohol Licensing Division of the Tax Commissioner's Office. If you hire someone new to work as armed security and you filed that registration previously, you have to let us know who the new hires are and let us know that they're going to be working as armed security and give us copies of their security officer licenses. Every year, businesses going forward will be required to certify whether they're going to use armed security in the following year. If you say that you're not going to use armed security, you can change your mind later, but you just have to let us know. You have to let us know who you're using for your armed security and who the employees are. If you want to hire somebody to eventually work as armed security, but they've got to go through the training requirements with the state board, you can hire someone, they can work in an unarmed capacity while they're going through the registration and the permitting process, and then just let us know once they complete that process, They get their security officer registration, and then they can start working as armed security. And then lastly, armed security personnel cannot drink or work under the influence of drugs or alcohol while they're in your business. Next slide, please. So speaking to the enforcement of this ordinance, the employers are responsible for knowing whether their contractors or employees are armed. If someone's on your premises and you're a bar or a nightclub or you have a special event, it is your job to know if they have a gun on them or not. If a violation is found on your premises, then whether it's an employee or a contractor, both the individual security worker and the business can be cited, and action can be taken against the business for the alcohol license, including things like imposing conditions, suspension, or revocation of the alcohol license. If a violation is found in a special event, then the alcohol license holder can be denied from holding future special events, and the location itself, even though they may not have an alcohol license because they have someone coming in on a special event basis, can be prohibited from hosting any special events for other alcohol licensees for up to 2 years. Next slide, please. So if anyone has any questions about the process of getting registered as a private security business or as a security officer, the Georgia Board of Private Detectives and Security Agencies can be contacted. I've got their phone number on the slide here, and then I've also got their website. They're under the professional licensing boards of the Secretary of State's office, and so you can go to that website or you can call them, and they'll be glad to give you information about the training requirements, the licensing structure, and how you get registered for any of those. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to help with any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Attorney McNeil. Most of you have before you a copy of both ordinances. At this time, we'll entertain any questions that you may have. If you have some, if you'll please approach the podium to identify yourself and ask your question. Does anyone in the audience wish to ask any questions? If you'll come up to the podium right here, sir. Right here. If you'll just identify yourself and then you can ask your question.
This year is a license. I received license already. I got a sheriff office sign and then I send. This is already. I got it. Is okay. Security camera system.
Did you understand?
Are you, just to clarify, sir, are you asking, you've already gotten your security camera system approved?
Yeah, the check is police officer already checking. I send is license before license and this one send the email and I receive a license BO license. Okay, this one the security system is okay or
Right.
not? This is already I received this one is a security system, no problem, right?
If you've already issued the license, there should not be any problem. Just keep in mind that we're having these meetings. We have one today and we have one at 1 o'clock on Thursday. And the purpose is just to make sure that everyone knows that this ordinance has gone into effect and they're required to meet these minimal guidelines. At the time of your license renewal, it might have been prior to July the 1st. I'm not sure what kind of camera system you have, but the Sheriff's Department and other agencies may be looking for those cameras to make sure they're inspected and meet the qualifications that we have, and also making sure they're working in properly in order. So you're going to notice, most bars and clubs are going to notice on a regular basis that someone will be coming in there inspecting the premises for multiple things, including the cameras, and also looking for cars for any armed security guards that may be there present. So if you've already got that signed off on your license and you meet those qualifications, then you have nothing to be concerned about. You can always call that number that was posted on the screen, and they can come out there for an inspection to make sure that you meet those qualifications, because that is a specific technology that's going to be required for those cameras.
Okay, and then is inspector is this one inspector police office come in the inspector sign is okay, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for members in the audience? Once again, this is our opportunity here to explain to the general public a potential change in the law. Although this law went in effect on July the 1st, we're beginning now to start enforcement of that. And the last thing we want people to do is indicate that they didn't know that this was in existence. So this is an opportunity that someone has to ask any questions about that before they receive a citation, a fine, or perhaps loss of their business license. We appreciate everyone being here today. We'll do the same presentation and have a question and answer during the day on Thursday at 1 o'clock right here in the chambers. In the meantime, if you have any additional questions or concerns, if you're out there on social media, you can send those to us so we can prepare to answer those questions perhaps on Thursday when we get here. Otherwise, we have plenty of copies of the ordinances up front, and you can also find those online. So if there's no other further business that brings us here today, this education informative section is now over. Thank you.